Ancient aliens, mind-boggling extraterrestrial links exposed in India. I am very curious to see where this goes.
Sirsi, India.
Okay.
10 miles outside of the city, in the southwestern state of Karnataka, within the river Chalmala, is one of the country's most popular pilgrimage sites, Sahasralinga. Hidden under these waters for most of the year lie stone sculptures known as Shiva lingams.
Wow.
These sacred idols are representations of the god Shiva and are visible to thousands of pilgrims once a year at the festival of Mahashivaratri.
Mahashivaratri is a festival where Shiva is worshipped for his great nature. Mahashivaratri is usually held in the end of February or beginning of March. During that month, the water level of the Salmala River drops down so that all the Shivalingas are exposed.
Shiva's depicted as the Shivalinga, as kind of a spherical column, the flaming pillar that is the cosmic axis of the universe. Every Shivalinga that's in worship is set into a yoni. This is a special base, and it actually serves kind of a utility of function. It's a spout so that when you pour offerings over the surface of the linga, they wash over the sacred body.
Interesting.
Images of the Shiva.
I'm curious about the structures that are in the water when the water recedes. How long has that been there and just intact? That's
Yeah, and
crazy
usually
to me.
water erodes things.
Yeah, ancient Romans discovered the ability to create concrete that would harden underwater to create structures like that kind of stuff. Like, that blew my mind. Like, how do you...
Linga are found throughout Southeast Asia, even in parts of East Asia. Sometimes images of Shiva as the lingam also made its way into China and into Japan.
That makes sense. It all started with India.
The Shiva lingam first appeared over 2,000 years ago, and there is still debate over what this shape was originally meant to symbolize. But ancient astronaut theorists suggest that the icon may represent an incredibly powerful technological device.
What?
Oh, yeah, wait.
Who's suggesting this?
Paris, France,
Oh.
1900. At the Paris Congress of History of Religions, Swami Vivekananda, a scientist and monk credited with popularizing Hinduism in the West, gives a lecture addressing the meaning of the Shiva lingam.
For centuries, Western scholars have assumed that the Shiva linga has purely a sexual connotation. The cylinder is the male phallic symbol and the yoni is the complementary female symbol. Then in 1900, the Hindu scholar Swami Vivekananda came to Paris to deliver a major lecture about Hinduism and symbolism. During this lecture, he said that the Shiva linga actually symbolizes the coming in or going out of the divine manifesting energy of Shiva.
It stands for energy, and it has often been misrepresented in the West that it is simply a phallic symbol of Shiva, which is not the case.
I mean, we do that with everything, though. Don't take offense to that. Like, Americans are immature brats that turn everything into a sexual thing.
100%.
When I saw Jeff Bezos' space shuttle, I wasn't thinking anything bad until the rest of the internet did.
Yeah.
It is obviously a pillar, because linga means
It's obviously a pillar.
Modern Hindu scholars have theorized that the Shiva Linga stone actually represents atomic energy.
Oh.
When we think about this idea of what atomic energy can do, how it can be used for good, but it can be extraordinarily destructive, this certainly pertains to the mythology of Shiva, who is chaotic energy, who is a force for incredible good, but also a force for incredible destruction.
Is it possible that this symbol of Shiva's power actually represents atomic energy? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest the proof can be found by examining this mysterious shape.
The cylindrical structure of the Shiva linga is similar or almost identical to a modern-day nuclear reactor.
Okay.
And the groove that surrounds the base represents the structure's bulk to dispose of the polluted water.
Oh, wow.
In ancient times and even today, Hindus pour water or milk on top of Shiva linga as a ritual. Today, we pour water over the top of a nuclear reactor to cool it. And interestingly, most Shiva temples are always found near water bodies, like rivers or lakes, just like nuclear power plants. So is it possible that Shiva linga actually represents an ancient nuclear power plant?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. The skeptic is kicking in hard.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, when I see these things, I'm just like, for real. And so then when that voice kicks in, the other voice goes, hey, shut up.
Hear him out.
Yeah.
Hear him out.
Let's see where this goes. Like, I'm automatically a skeptic, but that's how I've been conditioned to think, because in my early 20s, mid-20s, I became friends with someone who was like a very, very strong atheist who used to be Catholic, and he kind of introduced me to this other way of thinking. And I sort of just have been on that road ever since, of just like kind of when I see something or hear something on Facebook,
you're like questioning.
I'm immediately like, okay, give me some more information before I subscribe to this. You know?
I'm feeling very skeptic about it too, just because I'm like, but okay, give me some more proof here of why, other than just the shape.
That being said,
yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, the idea is cool.
Yes.
From like, let's remove all of the skeptic part of my, thought process. That's just a cool idea.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to see some proof of like the energy.
The story of Shiva
I guess,
and the Shiva linga were obviously dealing with some kind of a universal or cosmic power that we didn't fully understand until the 20th century, with the discovery of nuclear power and nuclear fission. These discoveries that predate modern man are completely changing our conception of the ancient past and connecting us to the true history of humanity.
You know what that is?
All before the time of the...
Yeah, you know what that is? Right there?
It's an energy plant, right?
Yeah. Well, what I was told, and this might be misinformation, what I was told, because I was on the freeway with some family members, and we drove by that, and to me, it just looked like two boobs.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I saw.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what that is? And I'm like, no. They're like, it's an energy power plant, and inside is an atom. It's like, or something like that. It's just like,
the
atom power plant or something like that. And like they said that these walls are as thick as a car.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it beyond that. I just remember hearing that as a kid, and it stuck.
Yeah. Because I know like Chernobyl, right? That had like the same.
Did it?
They had like the walls were like so thick.
That's right.
But yeah, they had just the issue there. So that's
1971. Eastern India. It was here, at the Sanskrit College in Calcutta, that Eric von Daniken met with Professor Dilip Kanjilal to study the Vedic Sanskrit, an ancient language used in religious Hindu texts.
Professor Dilip Kanjilal has gone through old Indian texts and made modern versions of it. Now it comes out in the old books. The so-called gods, they used flying machines to travel from heaven to earth.
According to the ancient Vedic text,
I hope that guy who has the crazy hair is in it. You know what I'm talking about? He was like the meme guy. His hair was like standing on end, and he was like aliens.
According to the ancient Vedic texts of India, the gods descended from the sky in flying vehicles.
He looks like he stuck his finger in the electric socket.
And he just goes alien.
Yeah.
They refer to those vehicles as Vimanas. There are very detailed descriptions what these Vimanas looked like, how they traveled from place to place, what was necessary in order to pilot them. All those things are described in ancient Hindu texts that are thousands of years old.
And for Eric, he naturally felt that these Vimanas were real nuts and bolts, aircraft, and of course he's saying these are the vehicles of the ancient astronauts.
When Eric first went to India, he explored a whole bunch of different sites, and he quickly came to the realization that India is a treasure trove for the ancient astronaut theory, because all over India we can find these magnificent temple towers that are referred to as stupas and also Vimanas. And so we have to ask ourselves, where did the form for a stupa come from?
Another great contribution of Eric is that he focused on India. Very few people had really studied the ancient Indian civilization, even though it is thousands of years old. And what he saw there were structures which were alleged to have been replicas of Vimanas.
So many Hindu temples in the Far East, they are representations in their architecture, what was going up in the sky. So the upper part of a Hindu temple often is seen as a flying object, as a Vimana.
Interesting.
And basically what we're being confronted with is the realization that these people built in stone objects which they seem to have seen in the sky.
When we look at the most ancient records we have coming out of the Vedic texts in India, there are clear descriptions of aerial battles taking place, Vimanas. So this really starts to raise the question about our own cycle of history. Is it completely linear, or is it possible that we're just starting to rediscover ancient technology that did exist thousands of years ago?
There's so many questions that pop into my head when I see these kinds of things. If I'm following this correctly, the suggestion here is that over India exclusively, almost like how aliens only seem to attack America in the movies, right? Over India exclusively.
There were these flying
ancient astronaut things, aliens, which I'm not saying didn't happen. It's just interesting that it only happened over India. So that would mean that it doesn't need to be corroborated in Greece. If they don't suggest that other ancient scholars also saw similar things, that's where I start to become even more skeptical, because like, why would it be limited to just India? Not that they're saying it can't, totally could have been. Why would they just stay there instead of like, hey, let's go fight over there and over China? It's really close. Nepal or Russia, whatever's close by. Like, why just that one pocket of the earth?
Ancient technology that did exist thousands of years ago.
Ancient texts all over the world talk about flying vehicles, people who could fly through the air.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's true.
Horses.
I mean,
but it was Eric who really put it together that the gods weren't just flying around like Superman. They had to get into some kind of.
That's wild though, like similarity.
Well, it's a cone of a.
Just like we do, and go somewhere. And this was the chariots of the gods.
Enoch tells us about the guardians of the sky who came down. He says they are called fallen angels, and they wanted to have sex with humans.
Okay.
And the offspring of it.
Why does that make you laugh?
Because
that falls in line with like religious texts, though.
I know,
like,
but it's just a funny concept of like, I like that planet. Let's go down there just to sleep with them. Like that's the only reason. They're like not to like say hi, learn about you guys. Just let's have a baby.
You're talking about a species that is so advanced, really, really, really early.
Yeah.
It takes time for gas to form, for planets to form, for like solar systems to form, and all that, for life to eventually form, and then for life to overcome the barriers to intelligence. And then after that, you have multiple barriers before you're able to get to fire, the wheel, the radio, spaceships, etc. Like there's a lot of barriers to climb. You take it even further now, you're talking about an entirely different set of code, making a baby with humans. And that's where I start to go, wait a second. If they have that kind of technology, why would they even associate with us? They're going to see us doing spaceships. They're going to be like, that's all they got? They are so far removed from us genetically. Like, how would we even communicate with them? We share space with a species that is only 1% different from us genetically, and we don't talk to them, and that's apes. We're not far removed from them. Can you imagine the idea if it was suggested of a human making a baby with an ape? Yeah. And that's a 1% difference in genetic code. Now, let's assume, for the sake of fun conversation, that the aliens are able to do this. Think, Mark! Because they are so freaking advanced, they're like, I understand we have a different code, but here's how you do it.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
So there were sexual contacts between extraterrestrials and the humans.
All right.
What does this mean? Well, it's very simple.
This guy.
Eric von Daniken's interpretation was, we are nothing else but hybrids of an extraterrestrial race that jump-started our civilization thousands and thousands of years ago.
I mean, that's a fun idea.
Yeah.
500 miles southeast of Delhi. Located on the banks of the Ganges, Varanasi is one of the oldest cities on Earth, a city that, according to legend, was founded by the gods.
Okay.
Long known as a center of knowledge and learning, Varanasi was once home to an ancient physician by the name of Sushruta, who many historians credit with developing the art of surgery.
In ancient India, the early physician was a guy named Sushruta, and he was a surgeon and physician who would do skin grafts, cataract removals, even early plastic surgery on people. So once again, we have someone whose medical knowledge seems so advanced for his time.
Sushruta is also considered to be the first practitioner of Ayurveda, one of the oldest known systems of medicine in the world. According to Hindu legend, Sushruta is said to have received this knowledge from a god known as Dhanvantari.
And Dhanvantari was a high-level god, as we would know them, who provided all the information on this complete healing modality based on an understanding of the physical and subtle aspects of the body. And it was passed through to Indian culture in ancient times and has been preserved and expanded since then.
Though he is most often depicted as having 4 arms and holding medicinal herbs, the god Dhanvantari was also a shapeshifter. According to legend, during his journeys to Earth, he could take on other forms, including that of a bird.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Is it possible that both Dhanvantari and the half-man, half-bird Egyptian god of healing, Thoth, were connected in some way?
See, that's what I'm talking about.
And if so, how?
Whether it's Dhanvantari or Thoth, we learn of these extraterrestrial divinities very often being portrayed as bird-like beings who delivered the knowledge of ancient medicine to Earth. This tells us that our original knowledge of medicine, human anatomy, and how to heal the body came from extraterrestrial sources.
I would appreciate if you would say it suggests the possibility of, as opposed to definitively saying that that's what it is. But I am saying that, again, as a skeptic. I don't know what he knows.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing what he sees. Like, my brain automatically tries to reverse engineer everything and go, okay, so like, imagine that you're a human living in Mesopotamia or like some kind of ancient city well before the invention of the written word. Hieroglyphics is how they, kept tabs on life.
Yes.
Right? If you are someone who's confined to the soil of the earth, and you look up at birds in the sky and there's like an envy to that, and you wish you could be up there, your imagination runs wild and you come up with these ideas. So my automatic assumption with everything from ancient Egypt specifically was that this is all just stuff that was made up because they didn't have all the forms of modern entertainment. You have to do something, that's where my mind goes when I reverse engineer all of that. I'm not saying this stuff didn't happen. It's just like, okay, if that's the case, where are these things now?
Yeah, that's always, because there's like never any proof of it like anywhere other than like the little drawings or something like that. I always say like the game telephone, if you just do the game telephone with a group of people, by the time it gets to that last person, it's a completely different sentence than when it started out. And just imagine all that time, how it's just changed, especially if they didn't have written languages or something at the time. It's open to interpretation. It could change the story as all these years later.
Have you ever been in a situation where you're like, who's that actor in that movie? Let me just open my phone, IMDb. We aren't using our brain to the capacity that we were using it, I feel like, back then.
Yeah.
With that in mind, maybe our ability to recall specific details was like way more accurate back in the day because we had to hold on to information.
Okay.
I have no idea. I think it's naturally a human quality to embellish as you receive information. Then it's like, by the time, this story that you started with gets over there, now Goliath is 100 feet tall as opposed to just a big dude.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I don't know.
Sushruta was very clear in stating that he learned this knowledge from the gods.
Okay.
Who were the gods? Extraterrestrials.
Every culture will tell you that the first surgeon, that medicine that healing was a gift of the gods. And that is extraordinarily interesting because it really shows that the benefit of mankind was accomplished through the intervention and the knowledge of the deities.
San Agustin Archaeological Park in Colombia is located along the west bank of the Magdalena River, near a place where it converges with two other rivers. It is a location that ancient astronaut theorists believe has a startling and not accidental significance.
They could have set up this site anywhere, but why did they choose San Agustin in Colombia? In India, we have this place called Triveni Sangamam, where three great rivers meet, and that site is chosen as a sacred site. We have a lot of temples in this place. Whoever came from India to here chose this place because this is where all these three rivers meet. And to find a place like this, you needed to have aerial survey. They were using the Vimanas, which is why they set up this ancient Shiva temple here.
They're saying that you can only see this place if you were up in the sky. So these aliens and the spacecrafts flew over and told them where to make temples where three rivers converged. They said that you could only find the rivers or know that three rivers connect if you saw it from above.
Why is that the barrier of entry for information like that? Is that a bad question?
No, because he's saying that so they built the temples in India along those three rivers, and then when the Indian guy, whoever they were talking about, went to Colombia, he founded a temple also on three rivers, but he could only find it if he had known from an aerial point of view.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, because I feel like maybe he was just looking for that and he spent a really long time, and then he finally found one that reminded him of home where the temples were, so he built it there.
I believe in what I can only describe as the zeitgeist theory.
Okay.
And this is my own phrasing. And that is sometimes you'll have someone on one side of the world and someone on the other side of the world come up with the exact same kind of idea at the same time. And I believe, and this is where I'm kind of going against myself, that there is some kind of connected spiritual consciousness that I cannot explain.
Yeah.
But there's something there because the timing is so perfect. It's the only reasonable explanation is that we do have some kind of mind connection that is beyond our capacity to understand. It's been shown multiple times through history where you have two people with a very similar idea at the exact same time, whether born out of a need or born out of human ingenuity, like two people who race to patent the same idea. It just makes sense to live near running water.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, you had to be near running water.
Yeah. Otherwise, you die.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You needed it for hydration, for drinking. You needed it for bathing.
Yeah.
You needed it for everything. And so it just makes sense to be near those. And those being mapped out earlier than the rest of land makes more sense to me.
As well, yeah.
The extraterrestrial flying machines that are described in the Mahabharata, the ancient Hindu text. Is it possible that Hindu explorers made the journey from India to South America and then settled in this region centuries ago?
They're talking about the pyramid
and
things.
Could they have made that journey a distance of some 12,000 miles by means of a Vimana? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and they believe that the answer to what compelled them to come there can be found by examining one of the ancient stone statues located in San Agustin Archaeological Park.
This was the final statue that I wanted you to look at. Pretty curious, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know what to call this except a spaceman. You can see that he's wearing some kind of a helmet. It looks like he has a visor. He's got two rectangular eyes and a rectangular mouth. He has no nose. He's holding this, what they call a power staff.
But what's really fascinating about that is he's holding that long cylinder, and if you look carefully, it's going even below his feet. He's using that cylinder to go into the ground. Now this is very interesting because in Hindu culture there's a god called Swarnakala Bhairava, and he's the god of gold, and he uses a tool called Kila, and he uses it to go into the ground and mine gold.
It could be a special probe that you can put in the ground and detect gold and minerals.
I mean, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I just thought it was a cute.
That is guiding them.
It does look still human.
To me, it's almost like the cloud effect. You look at a cloud and you're like, oh, I see a chicken. Oh, I see a building. Okay, you're seeing an alien.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's what you see. And
He's a spaceman in a spacesuit with his gold mining tools.
I feel like that's a bit far-fetched for me, if I'm being 100% honest. There is, I'm going to mispronounce his name, but there was a ancient scientist named Eratosthenes. It was documented that he figured out the circumference of the Earth within like a very small margin of error.
Okay.
He used sticks and shadows to figure that out.
Yeah.
Right? He had a stick in one part of the Earth, and he looked at the shadow and he studied it, and then he hired this guy to, go to another part of, I don't know how far away, to look at the shadow, and he's like, okay, it's like this kind of curvature. So based on all that, he extrapolated from that the Earth is about 25,000 miles around, and scientists have since measured it, and it was approximately that. It's like the technology that humans were able to come up with back in the day to do certain things is kind of remarkable, and it's like, just because you don't understand how it works doesn't automatically mean aliens.
Yeah.
It could have just been wild human ingenuity that we don't necessarily possess today because we're occupied with like
other stuff,
our phones. It's like, so we're not forced to think outside the box anymore because it's just been mapped out for us.
Oh, for sure.
I try to imagine like a million years from now, a species looking at us managing to get to the moon and then like assuming that it was aliens because like how could humans possibly do that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I try to look at it that way, and it's just extrapolate that way. A lot of what they're suggesting here, I'm like, this is all cool stuff. I like the ideas, and I love the idea that aliens made contact with us, and etc. I've been obsessed with aliens since I was a kid. But being as objective as possible, I look at that, I go, I don't know.
Yeah. I feel the same way, because that would be awesome if that was the case.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot missing from the story, I feel like, that they even told us. I'm like, wait, what about this? What about that?
Yeah. That being said, if you enjoy this, you might enjoy Scientology. Because Scientology actually, as I understand, and they chronicled this in South Park. South Park is known for being a comedic show, but apparently they took the text verbatim.
Yes.
And showed you exactly what Scientologists believe.
At the highest level.
At the highest level. And apparently they believe we came from aliens. That's like, this is not an uncommon theory in that circle, you know? So Tom Cruise, one of my heroes, believes the same thing.